Hello U10s and welcome back to mathematics. In today's lesson we're continuing with our topic of linear relationships, and in particular we're looking at how to graph a line using intercepts. So by the end of today's lesson we want to be able to find the intercepts of a linear relationship and draw the graph of a linear relationship using the intercepts. Now in this topic so far we've actually drawn a bunch of linear relationships, and at the very beginning of this topic we actually did that by creating a table of values that looks like this, and we filled in our table of values and we subbed in values into our table of values, and then from there we were able to plot a few points on the Cartesian plane and draw a line through it. So that's what we did at the beginning of this topic, and we also looked at the gradient intercept form. And the gradient intercept form, if you remember, we had y is equal to m x plus b, and it had two pieces of information. We had the gradient, how steep the line was, which was the number m, and the y-intercept b. And so what we could do is we could plot b on our Cartesian plane, our y-intercept, use our gradient to find a second point, so a second point like over here, and then draw a line through it like so. And so that was the two ways that we've looked at sketching a linear relationship so far in this topic. What we're doing today is we're actually building off of that. We're building another skill, or putting another skill in our toolbox of skills to use in sketching a linear relationship. What we're going to be doing is drawing a linear relationship using the intercepts. Now, in this topic already, we've talked about a particular intercept. We've talked about the y-intercept over here. The y-intercept is where the line touches the y-axis. And so we're going to talk about what intercepts are and how to find them, and actually go about plotting a linear relationship on a Cartesian plane. So let's go and do that. So here's a quick definition. An intercept is a point where a line touches the axes. So it doesn't have to matter which one. It could be your y-axis. So like we said before, that's your y-intercept, or your x-axis, your x-intercept. And here, most lines have two intercepts, and what we said was the x-axis, x-intercept, and the y-intercept. So in my diagram here, I've actually drawn an example of a line on my Cartesian plane. And so my two axes, or my two intercepts, well, the first one is over here. This is my x-intercept. That is where it touches the x-axis. So notice here, this is the point where it touches my x-axis. The other intercept is this one over here, which we're quite familiar with. This one is our y-intercept. And so with our y-intercept, this is where the line touches the y-axis along here. And so what we're going to need to do by the end of today is actually be able to find those intercepts and also be able to sketch them on a Cartesian plane and draw a line through it. So that's what we're going to be doing. So firstly, finding intercepts. The first thing we need to be able to do is to be able to find intercepts. So what we actually need to do when we're finding intercepts is we need to substitute a value. Here, when we want to find the x-intercept, so where the line touches the x-axis, we want to sub in y is equal to 0. We sub in y is equal to 0. That's because that line along the origin is, this yellow highlighted line is just y is equal to 0. And similarly, if we want to find the y-intercept, we want to sub in, well, the opposite. So here we're going to sub in x is equal to 0. And so here, when we're trying to find the intercept, all we need to do is substitute either x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0 if we want to find the x-intercept, or x is equal to 0 if we want to find the y-intercept. So let's have a go at a few examples of this. For the following, we've actually gone and found the y-intercept already. What we're going to be doing here is actually looking for the x-intercept. So example 1, finding the x-intercepts. Find the x-intercept for the following equation. So here we've got two equations, and what we want to do is we want to find the x-intercept. The way we do this is, if looking for the x-intercept, we're going to sub y is equal to 0. We're going to replace y with 0. So let's have a look at this first example. We've got y is equal to negative 2x minus 7. So I'm going to substitute y is equal to 0 to find the x-intercept. So I'm going to have 0 is equal to negative 2x minus 7. All I've done here is I've replaced y with 0. Okay, Now what we want to do is find or the value of x which makes this equation make sense. So we're solving for x. So what I recommend you do, if you've got a negative, we're going to move it to the other side. We're going to move all the x terms to one side and all the numbers to the other side. Now here I've got negative x, negative 2x. So if I move it to the other side, it goes from negative to positive 2x. So I've got 2x is equal to negative 7. Okay, cool. Then from there, what we want to do is we want to solve for x. Here, 2x is just the same as writing 2 times x. And so what I need to do to solve this is I need to divide both the left-hand side by 2. So I need to divide that by 2. I need to divide this right-hand side by 2. So here, I'm going to get left with x is equal to negative 7 over 2. Unfortunately, we can't simplify that any further, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So that's my solution here. So the steps that we did there, we substituted y is equal to 0, and then we rearranged and started solving for x so that we could get an x value at the end. So my x-intercept is just at negative 7 over 2. Okay, next one. Y is equal to negative 3 over 4x plus 6. Okay, once again, first step, we're going to substitute y is equal to 0. So I'm going to replace y with 0. So I'm going to write here 0 is equal to negative 3 over 4x plus 6. Okay, then from there, what we want to do is we want to move all of our terms with x to the one side. So here I've got this term here. It's a negative 3 over 4x. I'm going to move it over here. And then that becomes a positive 3 over 4x. It's equal to 6. Okay, now what we want to do is to get x by itself. Now here we've got this fraction 3 over 4. Now when I deal with fractions, what I usually recommend is we're going to multiply by the number in the denominator first, just to get rid of that denominator. So here I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. So I'm going to multiply by 4 and multiply by 4. And by doing so, this actually cancels out the denominator. So here I'm left with 3x because there's still this 3 up here. I've got that 3x here. And that's equal to, well, 6 times 4 gives me 24. Okay. And then now that I've done that, I'm going to now just do the same step that I did over here. If I want to get rid of that 3, I need to divide both sides by 3. So I'm going to divide this side by 3, divide this side by 3. And those 3's will cancel out. And we're left with x is equal to 24 divided by 3 is just 8. So that's how we find the x-intercept. All we're doing is substituting y is equal to 0. Now for both of these examples, I've actually left off the y-intercept. And that's because we've actually found the y-intercept quite easily from this form. Remember, this was called the gradient intercept form. And so if we want to find the y-intercept, all we need to do is just read off the last number. So for this first one, the y-intercept is equal to negative 7. And for the second one, the y-intercept is just positive 6, or just 6. So for these two, finding the y-intercept is actually quite easy. Okay. So far what we've done is we've looked at finding the intercept. And in particular, we've actually looked at finding the x-intercept. What we need to now do is actually figure out how we actually plot this on our Cartesian plane. So sketching using intercepts. Here's our 3 steps I want you guys to follow. The first step is to find the 2 intercepts. So go through the steps that we did up here. If you need to find the y-intercept, you need and it's not in the gradient intercept form, all we need to do is just substitute x is equal to 0. So I'm going to go through an example where we have to do that in a moment as well. So find the 2 intercepts. And then once we've done that is we're going to plot them on our Cartesian plane. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our x-axis and then we're going to put on our x-intercept. So here, for example, the first one, we had an x-intercept of negative 7 over 2. So I'm going to put a dash here, negative 7 over 2. And then we're going to do the same thing for our y-intercept. So if I got a y-intercept, so this one we had y-intercept of negative 7 up here. And so that means I just go all the way down to negative 7 and put a dot there. So put a dot at both of these points. So put a dot here, put a dot here. And then all we need to do as a final step is just to draw a line through your 2 intercepts. So then my line would look something like this. Like that. And there we go. That is how we sketch our line on our Cartesian plane. Okay, let's have a go at a couple of examples of this. The first one is when we've got our equation in this form. So we're going to sketching these particular equations by using the intercept. So let's have a look at this one. Sketch a graph of 3x minus 4y is equal to 12 by finding the x and y intercepts. Okay, the first step is we want to find the intercept. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find both of those intercepts. let's start off with the x-intercept. Now, what we did before with the x-intercepts was we sub y is equal to 0. So let me go to my equation. I've got 3x minus 4y is equal to 12. And I'm going to sub in y is equal to 0. So I'm going to write 3x minus 4 times 0. So I'm substituting y is equal to 0 here. So let me just make this in red so we can see it. So wherever I see y in my equation, I replace it with 0. And that's equal to 12. Okay, we've got that. On the left hand side, I've got 3x minus 4 times 0. 4 times 0 will just give me 0, so I'm just left with 3x is equal to 12. And final step, if we want to just solve this just like we did before, divide by 3 to get rid of this 3 in front of the x. And so here I'm going to get x is equal to 12 divided by 3 will give me 4. Okay, that was the first part. So I've found my x-intercept. I also need to do the same thing for my y-intercept. Now this time, when I find my y-intercept, instead of substituting y is equal to 0, I'm going to sub in x is equal to 0. So here, I'm going to substitute x is equal to 0. And so I'm going to look at my rule again. I've got 3x minus 4y is equal to 12. So this becomes 3 times 0, because I'm replacing x with 0, minus 4y is equal to 12. Okay. Now 3 times 0 is going to leave me with 0. And here I still got this minus 4y here. That minus is still there. So we've got minus 4y is equal to 12. And then the final step that we need to do is we need to divide both sides by the number in front of my y. So here I'm going to need to divide by negative 4. I'm going to divide by negative 4. And over here these are going to cancel out. And I'm left with y. And then need to do 12 divided by negative 4. Now 12 divided by 4 is just 3. And because we've got a positive and a negative, that's just going to give me a negative. Okay, so that's just me finding my intercepts. So that's that first step. What we want to do is if we want to find the two intercepts. X-intercept, we sub in y is equal to 0. Y-intercept, we're going to sub in x is equal to 0. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to draw up a Cartesian plane. So let me just draw up a Cartesian plane. Let me go down to here. Maybe go extend out a little bit further. There we go. Oh, that's a little bit wide. Let me try that again. Okay. So that was this. Okay. And so what we're going to do with our Cartesian plane, we've got y. Oh, I've got my x and y axis. I'm just going to plot in these two intercepts. Now the first one is x is equal to 4. Now the x is equal to 4 is somewhere over here on the right hand side. Now it doesn't need to be as long as your graph looks kind of to scale, and that as long as your graph looks kind of to scale, that's all that really matters. You don't need to make it super accurate. You don't need to go up to the 4th box and make it like that. As long as it looks kind of to scale, that should be okay. So here I'm going to put a 4 here. And my other intercept is y is equal to negative 3. So now negative 3 is going to be down over... Negative 3 is somewhere around here. Negative 3. Okay, so I've put on my two intercepts. And all I need to do now is just to draw a straight line through it. So here I'm going to draw this straight line through it. And there we go. This is my equation, 3x minus 4y is equal to 12. So that's how I sketch my line on a Cartesian plane. Okay, cool. That's this example. What we did was, the 3 steps were, find your intercepts, plot them on our Cartesian plane, and then we draw a line through it. So that's what we did in this example. Let's have a look at the next one. This is an example where we've got the equation of a line in gradient intercept form. So here we go. Sketch the graph of y is equal to negative 2x plus 5 by finding the x and y intercepts. We've got a different type of equation here for our line, but the steps that we're going to follow is exactly the same. So let's first start off by finding the x-intercept. X-intercept, we sub in y is equal to 0. So I'm going to replace y with 0. So I look at my equation, y is equal to negative 2x plus 5. I'm just going to write here, 0 is equal to negative 2x plus 5. Okay. Then we're going to start to solve this. Now, just like we did in that first example that we did today, we're going to move that negative 2 over to the other side. I don't like the negative sign. I'm going to move it to the other side. And when we move a negative over, it becomes a positive. So we've got 2x is equal to 5. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to divide both sides by 2 because I want to get rid of this 2 in front of the x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And so here we get x is equal to 5 over 2. Now 5 over 2 can't be simplified, but if you chuck this in the calculator, you can see that this is approximate. This is equal to 2.5. So just so we get an idea of where this is on our Cartesian plane. Okay, so that's the first part. We found the y-intercept. We still need to find the we found the x-intercept, and we still need to find the y-intercept. So here we're going to substitute x is equal to 0. So I'm going to go to my rule, and I'm going to substitute x is equal to 0. So here I've got y is equal to negative 2 times 0 plus 5. So here y is just going to be equal to negative 2 times 0 is 0, and I'm left with y is equal to 5. And so those are my two my two intercepts. X is equal to 2.5 and y is equal to 5. So now that I've done that, all I need to do is just put this on a Cartesian plane. I'm just going to draw up my Cartesian plane. So here, I'm just going to draw up my y and x. I have an x-intercept at 2.5, so that's roughly somewhere along here. So if I go around here, like let's say here, 2.5, and I've got a y-intercept of 5. So I'm going to go into my y-axis and I'm going to put in a y-intercept of 5. And once I've done that, all I need to do is draw a straight line through it, like this. And here, we've drawn our linear relationship, y is equal to negative 2x plus 5. Okay, so there we go. That is how we sketch a linear relationship using the intercept. So let's just go through the steps that we went through, what we did today. In today's lesson, we started off by looking at what an intercept was and how to find it. So here in particular, the intercepts were where a line touched the x and the y axis. And what we had to do was, if we want to find an x-intercept, we sub in y is equal to 0. And if we want to find a y-intercept, we sub in x is equal to 0. Then what we did was we actually used this to sketch a line on a Cartesian plane using the intercepts. So steps were find the two intercepts, put them on a Cartesian plane, and then draw a line through those intercepts. And we went through 2 examples of how to do this with different forms of equations. So hopefully that helped, and if you're not sure about any particular question or how to do it, have a look at the relevant sections in the video and scroll back and have a look at it again. And as always, I'm more than happy to answer your questions on Google Classroom or via email. But until next lesson, Year 10s, I hope you guys are staying safe wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!